Right. So, as part of our the product owner related training, as in when we see, so being a product owner, we need to define the goal and vision of the product, all this. So, in this session today, I'm going to discuss about how to create tasks for a particular project, which is called inventory management. Because as in when inventory management is to manage the inventory of a particular product or multiple products or something in any organization. Either it can be retailing, etc., all that. So in process of understanding, so being a product owner, it's not only about the defining goal and vision of uh, reason behind developing an inventory management system, but even we need to update what are the different tasks on the board. This is important because development team has to work on the project, they need to complete the code, etc., all that. So we have to provide the detailing. So in terms of the task I'm referring to, not in terms of the user story, because when you want to write user story, you are writing user story when we following the scrum board. The one which I have taken is about the Kanban. Okay, Kanban model I am referring to, right? So when we are taking the Kanban board into consideration, so we generally write down the tasks here. So the tasks, whatever that we need to be mentioned here, especially for inventory management system NVC, so will be as follows. Okay, the first one about the consignment inventory, which is the first one. So consignment inventory is the first one. Next, available inventory accuracy. This is the second one. Third, when we are working on inventory management system, there are different inventory analysis techniques, management techniques we use, something like two-bin system, ABC analysis, all that. So ABC analysis is one of the thing that I mentioned here. Next, we need to mention the forecasting of the future inventory needs, whatever we have. Whatever the inventory needs we have, everything has to be updated. Next, earlier in the olden days, we used to follow just in time. Okay, so just in inventory, JIT inventory is also one thing we need to mention. Next one about the demand forecasting. Next, EOQ, economic order quantity. Economic order quantity is the next one. Next, first in, first out, last in, first out. That is also there. Okay. FIFO stands for first in, first out. LIFO stands for last in, first out. About the inventory management of the goods that we are managing, etc. All that. So next one about inventory control. Next, reporting. Next one about reporting. Next, tracking inventory. Another one. Next, analyze product levels. Next, average inventory. These are the different tasks I'm mentioning here. Okay. Next, inventory need to be audited. Okay. Inventory auditing is one more. Inventory item is one more. Next one about ordering. Next, regular updates of inventory list. Okay, these are the different tasks normally we will be having whenever we are working on the inventory management system, when we are trying to update any kind of inventory in the Kanban board, etc. So, being a product owner role, right? So we normally write epics and user stories, etc., using Scrum board. But when it comes to the Kanban, usually Kanban, we don't have any role specific. It's a Kanban team we refer to. So being sometimes when we are into the role of a PO or so we need to write down the tasks, etc. first. So whatever the tasks that we have mentioned here and whatever the task that was mentioned and identified here. So this here we need to write down the description next because consignment of an inventory is a major task that we have taken. So every task will have subtask also. Normally the hierarchical process will be like this. For example, first is epic, next is a user story, next about the task, the one which we have written. Next is called subtask. Okay, this is how generally the categorization will be. Epic user stories, etc. we follow when we go for Scrum model, as I told you. So if not, if when we are following the Kanban board and all, we can write down the tasks, we can write down the subtasks, etc. So it depends on our requirement. So we can update all these things, etc. Right. So this is what generally we do here. Right. So consignment inventory is a task that we have taken here. So now, if you want to add any kind of related work to the existing one, okay, that is what something that we need to do. For example, for consignment of inventory, there is some attachment is there, right? Some attachment you want to take some attachment, right? So you want to add some attachment about the inventory for a benefit of the technical team, etc. So that we can add those inventories, everything will be attachments can be added. Or else if you want to create any kind of page, some Confluence page is there, right? So if you want to create any kind of page for consolidating inventory, consignment of inventory, we can add it, right? So we can go to Confluence, wherein we have to connect there. Go to Confluence. And here you need to write on the list, okay, whatever the page title should be provided, and we have to update all the details here, right? So about the consignment inventory, etc. So we need to add the details. So when I discussed about the Confluence and all, I'll tell you all that stuff. Next, description we need to write. Consignment of inventory description has to be mentioned. Followed by this, if you want to detail this particular task to the micro level, then we can create some child issues which are nothing but subtasks. So that can be added even here. And when to whom are we going to assign this, etc. To whom are we assigning this, and how you are going to create a branch, everything we need to do, right? So here you can see create a branch. Right. So for example, I'm going to create a branch from the development perspective. Normally development people will do, not by the product owner, but for an understanding I'm saying, right? So if you want this to be taken, right? So we want to create a batch, etc. So that we can create, we can click on it and we can mention because Git is majorly used for GitHub is a repository, code repository. If you want to write any kind of code, etc., everything can be stored in the GitHub repository, and Jira will be connected to the GitHub as well. That's how generally it works. Okay. So this is how generally we need to write down the tasks, whatever the required task for the inventory management system, being a product owner, we are going to write here. So after that, once this task is initiated, so this can be moved on to the next level, right? So for example, some activities were still in the stage of in progress, right? So some is waiting for the customer purpose or something, right? So like this, we can add it, right? So it depends on the status what we have identified initially to start it with. So we can update it because this is depends on the implementation which team has done. So far, everything will be in the to-do state itself. There won't be any changes here. So from to-do date, if you want to transform this into in progress state, So make sure team has to write the code, etc. It's based upon that, we will be moving on to the in progress state. For that, from there onwards, we can transfer this to the waiting for customer to accept it. Based upon that, after that, we'll be moving to the resolve state. This is how generally the Kanban board we have to use. Uh, the Scrum will have timelines, because Scrum will have timelines, user story points, everything will be there. 2 weeks, 1 week sprint, 2 weeks, 3 week, 4 week, like that. But when we follow the Kanban model and all, we directly write down the tasks on the Kanban board, and so that we can move on further. So to create report generations, being a Scrum Master, we create, if we are a Scrum Master provided, right? So we are a Scrum Master, then we create some cycle time reports, defect tracking, right? So all these things will be prepared. When you follow Scrum, we create burn-down charts, burn-up charts, velocities. When you follow Kanban, we follow defect tracking or cycle time reports. All these will be prepared here. This is an understanding about the pivot rule, especially when we are working on Agile.